When Magnus Carlsen, world number 1, engages God mode, you run for the hills, run for your lives, because Magnus does something unprecedented here in this tournament. Full details to come, but let's first dive into this game. He's playing black, it's the Superbet, rapid and blitz, it's the final day, he's chasing Wei Yi, and he's playing Nodirbek Abdusatorov, a youngster who wants beat him to win the World Rapid Championship. This is exciting. His opponent goes pawn c4. The English, they're over the board. They're warming up their fingers here. Blitz chess. Fasten your seatbelts because Magnus now goes g6. The great snake variation. He does a hiss, does this impression. And now he slithers into the game after Nodirbek clamps on d5, and here comes his Titan Aboa. Knight f3 from Nodirbek. We see pawn e5 from Magnus. He goes to clamp down on the dark squares. g3, Nodirbek copying. Here comes his own snake, and c5 played. Both players do a double fist bump, explode it out. Bishop g2 and knight c6. Targets the dark square. Knight c3, anything you can do, I can do better, says Nodirbek. And does Magnus carry on with the symmetry? No, he doesn't. He brings the pony here. What a party pooper. And now the game gets spicy, because we don't see a standard castles or pushing the d-pawn. We see pawn to h4. Not quite a korma, but we're getting there. Does Magnus go h5 to shut down the advance? No, he doesn't. He goes d6 and things really intensify. It turns into a jalfrezi. The pawn pushing, making tracks. Now we get bishop g4 from Magnus. What's he playing at? Encouraging that pawn on. It just turned into a vindaloo. Don't tell me Magnus is about to let it become a foul, eat up his bishop. No, he saves it. That looks weird, but d5 under control. The knight can't hop without being captured. So we see d3 played. One of those rare moments. A double camel toe pawn formation. A beautiful sight in chess. Queen d7 from Magnus and bishop e3. As of move 11, both players have got their bits out. It's great grandmasterly chess. Magnus now hits the outpost, pressuring the pony on f3, and Nodirbek can't live with it. He takes it off, saying gobble gobble. Magnus recaptures, and now Nodirbek. Didn't he go to grandmaster school? Look at that juicy d5 outpost. Surely you want to hit it. No, he goes knight e2. Mum and dad ashamed. What are you doing back here, you loser? Well, here's Nodirbek's cunning plan. Because after Magnus rotates into c6 with his knight, we get knight to h2. Hitting the bishop, Magnus should now technically go h3 if he wants a simple game, but he drops back, keeping complications, and now after queen d2, queen e7, provocative, looking for bishop g5, yes, but goading f4, Magnus finds himself in an uncomfortable spot here, because the pawns are rolling, the bishops are struggling for retreat squares. It's initiative with Nodirbek. Magnus now plays an imprecise move as well. Rook b8 a bit stronger, preparing b5, but he takes. Pawn recaptures. Yes, he gets a check. A few of his fans are bleating, but it isn't the best. If the king now slides to f1, that's best. Keep control of f2, but it's not played. King d1 played instead, and something wicked this way comes. Keep your eye on the sniper. Magnus starts with a5, doesn't yet go bishop f2, and is it because he was goading this move from Nodirbek? We'll never know, but knight f3 now comes, so natural, but it's a big mistake. Because now, when the bishop hits f2, coming to e3, the big difference is that with the knight not on h2, when the bishop hits e3, the knight can't come to f1 and challenge that square. It's subtle, it's beautiful. Bishop h3 now played, and bishop e3. Magnus lands in the belly of the whale. It's so uncomfortable. Nodirbek slides back with the queen. He swapped the queen and king. He wins 10 points for Gryffindor, but his rooks are split. That's a down thumb. We see castles from Magnus, and now surely you play pawn to f f5 here. Turn up the heat on the attack. Go for the throat here with Magnus, but it isn't played. For some reason here, Nodirbek plays queen h4. Why would you offer the world number one endgame goat a queenless endgame? Or is it a middle game? No one knows. It sent many a chess player nuts. Magnus, of course, gleefully takes those ladies off the board, loves himself an endgame. This is just incredible. You'd go for this. It's like challenging Garry Kasparov to a staring contest, or young Yasser Serwan to a 10k, or Fabiano Caruana to a dress-up contest on the weekend. You just don't do it. You're asking for trouble. Now we see knight b4 from Magnus, and with d3 under fire, things are starting to collapse, but we see a counterplay move played. Now f3 comes, f5 rather, and you can actually take here. We're going to the Batcave, analysis mode. The point being, after captures, there's check, but after king c2, not taking the rook, there's this sneaky move. Not easy to see this stuff in blitz chess. You win back the piece, these ones are still hit, black doing great. But Magnus doesn't take the pawn, he just retreats his sniper to that starting square, and now knight c1 played to cover the d3 pawn, but this bishop on e3 turns into Dennis the Menace, because after bishop takes on h6, that's a clean pawn won, and now after this knight is kicked and it drops and this one re-enters the game, we see it doing more damage on these dark squares, unopposed. Knight f3. The bishop lands back in the belly of the whale. Now we see king c2, connecting those rooks, but the engine hates it. What did the Silicon Overlord want? Let's run it back. Well, of course it wanted knight e1. Anyone for a knight maneuver? Covering d3, I guess. Maybe headed for c2 or g2 to kick that bishop. But okay, king c2 played, and Magnus now sets up a bind. This pawn acting like an egg. We see rook h2. Counterplay here for Nodirbek. Rook a5 from Magnus, adding some lateral pressure, and after the two towers stack on the h-file, Magnus pushes h5, and this one slides over, x-raying the king, pressuring g6, so king g7 played, but knight g3. All the pieces, 5 of them, playing against the black king, plus the pawn. This is deadly. There's a threat to take on h5, there's a pin down here, so what does Magnus do? Just king f6, leisurely strolling through one of the roughest neighbourhoods in town, getting the king out of dodge. We see rook f1 and king e7. Just beautiful chess, evacuating the dance floor. Rook h1 played, Nodirbek stuck for a plan, and Magnus now turns up the heat on the queen side. This king naked, no kings protecting it, only a few measly pawns. We see captures on g6, pawn recaptures, bishop takes here, and now Magnus makes the wrong move. He's got a choice of which piece to capture, but he doesn't take the right one. Capturing the knight is best. We won't go down the rabbit hole. Magnus takes that bishop, but now this knight that wasn't captured can jump to h4. Not played though. We get knight e2 first. Magnus should take on c4 here, but instead he goes rook f8, encouraging the knight to h4, where it's threatening to fork king and rook. And by not taking here, you never found time for rook g5, supported by the bishop. How's Magnus going to deal with this threat? Does he get out the forking way? Well, no. He goes knight e5, covering g6, and now rumour has it that someone in the audience begins to bleat in support of Magnus. It puts Nodirbek off. Why doesn't he just crash through on g6? Simple stuff. Best move. Rook recaptures. Things aren't so clear. Here's a sample line. Now black can invade, but the king can cover. And what to do? This is under fire a bit. This is under fire. White's got pawns too. This king's exposed. It's game on. But it wasn't played. We see pawn pushes to c5, not takes as I thought was about to be played, and Magnus gets rook f6, covering g6, takes with check sure, but king recaptures. It finally completes its tour de board, and after king b1, always play it, says Ben Finegold, Nodirbek offering a pawn so that the knight's distracted, then you crash through here, Magnus just reactivates his rook, and now this is the weirdest resignation or lost on time ever. We get king a2 and resigns, or lost on time, one of the two. You don't often see the safest king in the world leading to resignation. But what this then led to was the most incredible streak of games. Look at this, Magnus Carlsen winning 10 in a row. It's unprecedented in Blitz chess at the elite level. Truly superb. I'm trying to get through all the games. Smash subscribe if you love these ones. And for another epic game from this streak, check out the video on screen, just incredible. Thanks a lot for watching and see you soon.